Welcome to Café Con Leche
with Liz
and Lil. Hey, sis.
Hi. How you doing, Queen?
How are you? I'm so good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this thing. We're going to do it. It's going to be good. Y'all, it has been a weekend. It has been a lot. We record these things on Mondays. And I'm not going to lie, I could not bring myself to put makeup on today because I was like, I am in my feelings. And if I cry at any point, I just don't want it to run.
Well, you already gorgeous, so.
I mean, I know. So today, Alyssa, you want to tell them who's on the show today?
Today, we have the gorgeously talented and intelligent Michelle Rios. And one of my best friends, the incredibly talented Héctor Flores Jr.
Yes. So let's get going with it. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Woo!
Welcome to Café Con Leche, you two.
Hello.
Hey, ready to party.
So excited to have you.
I know, we're so thrilled. Yeah, I know. Everybody. Then, because everybody has their coffee, we have to ask the question that we always ask. How do you like your cafe? Do you like it hot? Do you like it cold? Do you like it on the go? Because you got too much to do. I don't have time to sit down and relax and take this in. I have to be somewhere. How do you like your cafe?
Michelle, you first.
Well, I like my coffee hot, and I like it with café con leche. I like hot milk. I like a little bit of cinnamon. Much like Vanessa. Like the way my grandma used to make it.
Yeah.
Today I made mine with a little bit of cinnamon just for the show.
Yes. I had a breakthrough about my coffee today, Alyssa.
Oh my goodness.
So I have talked about this a lot on Café Con Leche. I was a person who was like, I would like a little bit of coffee with my milk, right? Because I had lots of milk and a little coffee. So I recently started a diet thing where I cannot do sugar. I can't really do milk. So I have to have coffee black, and then I put a little bit of Cool Whip in it, 2 tablespoons of Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Just to like sweeten it up just a little bit, but it's still very bitter to me. But I realized, so this diet that I'm on comes with what they call fuelings. Basically, they're the snacks that you eat throughout the day. And like a bunch of them are these shakes, okay? And you're supposed to use a cup of water to make these shakes. And I was like, if I brew a cup of coffee and pour it into the shake, replace the water with the coffee, the shake will sweeten it up for me.
That's true. Good job.
Right, pal. God.
And I was like, I'm eating what I'm supposed to eat. I'm not adding any sugar, and I'm only drinking a cup of coffee. Ding, 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 ding. Winning.
Nailed it.
Changed my life.
I'm so proud of you.
I mean, I realized that directly after brewing this cup, but
one for the win, babe. One for the win.
Next time.
I love it. Where are you guys coming from to us today, Michelle?
Well, I'm coming from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Amazing.
And yeah, I know. And I used to live in New York for many years, and that's where I'm from. And now I live here. I live here now.
Where are you from in New York?
Me?
Yeah.
I grew up in Flushing. I grew up in Flushing, Queens, and
Don't
I lived
be a
in
drag,
the Heights.
just be a queen.
Exactly. and I lived in the Heights for a while. I lived on Cabrini, 181st and Cabrini.
Yes.
While I was living in New York. Yeah.
I love that. I'm on 172nd and Fort Washington right now. So.
Oh, I miss it there.
Around the corner. Yeah. And Héctor?
Yes.
Harlem.
Yes. I love it there. Love it.
I love it.
Yes.
One name, famous place, Harlem. Everybody knows. Doesn't matter where they're from. They're like, I think Michelle might win for the second farthest away someone has been.
Really?
And that's only because no one will ever beat Rogelio. He was in Dubai.
He was trapped in Dubai.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
Quarantined in Dubai.
Yeah, in our first episode, Rogelio was coming to us from Dubai, from his hotel room in Dubai, because he was doing a show there at the Q Bar. He was in residency there, and they
And
you
their
know,
quarantine
stopped
was
everything.
for serious.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And he's back. Is he back?
I mean, his
Is he back?
hotel room
Yes.
looked really nice. I mean, I
I'm
think it was
sure.
not
It's
too shabby a
Dubai.
place to be quarantined in.
No, no,
Really.
But
no.
nonetheless, he was stuck there.
Yeah, nothing but
wow.
lovely things to say about the service and how he was being treated and whatnot. But they meant it. They had like phone warnings that you had to be in your place in 8 minutes.
Like an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like a whole thing, or they were going to arrest your ass if you were outside.
Yeah. So
Listen,
I know we haven't all I didn't all get to share that experience of being quarantined in Dubai and getting catered meals. I'm making it sound glamorous. It's still not glamorous. Like, it's quarantine. But
it's a little bit glamorous for quarantine.
How has the experience of the quarantine and so kind of going through this pandemic been for you in your home, right, or where you are right now? Did you start in Alberta? Were you already there? Did you have to return? How was that for you?
No, I was actually in Vancouver doing a production, in all the way up until February, from like December to February, and then I was able to go home, and then a couple of weeks later, it was like boom! All of a sudden, we were in pandemic mode and quarantine mode. So I was able to be home. So I'm here in my little house in Edmonton with my partner and my beautiful dog, and just, back in my space. But it's been really intense. I mean, I think we're all collectively going through something, a collective trauma, if you will, because I think we're all kind of in this survival mode of trying to figure out how to maneuver through this quote unquote new normal. Right. So I've been in touch with a lot of my friends in the States and family here in Canada as well, because, my partner, her family lives a couple of hours away. Yeah. So we kind of connect, I'm grateful for technology for that reason. So a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of chats, things like that, on texting. But it's been really intense for me. It's been very emotional because my family, they're all in the States. Mm-hmm. So, my immediate family, mommy, papi, my dad's in Florida, my mom's in Maryland. My siblings are between Florida and Maryland. So it's been really intense, my nieces and nephews, to make sure that they're okay on a daily, like constantly watching the news, and I'm so like aware of what's happening in the world. So for me, it's just been hard sometimes to see how things have evolved in the past 4 years, and how
or haven't.
Absolutely.
Devolved,
so that's where I've been with this quarantine. It's just being really hyper aware. Yeah.
I think the quarantine is bringing out a lot in everybody. The things that you find. What are the things that you found that you needed, that you craved the most? You know what I mean? What are the things that you really cannot live without? Yeah. And looking in yourself, and if you can't find stillness in there, and if that stillness is not comfortable for you, then why is that? Why is that the case? Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of inward reflection that's happening right now amongst the masses. And
absolutely.
I think that it's unfortunate that all this, the Black Lives Matter movement is happening during this virus, but maybe it took this virus for people to open their eyes, to sit home and really see these things on TV that we know that have been happening, but nobody's been able to really do anything about, or if they have been able to do something, they have not. And now the question is why.
Yeah. Yeah,
we had a guest on a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago.
Here's to a couple years ago. Come on.
I
know. That's right.
In a couple of years, Alyssa and I will be in a TV studio doing this live.
For the Whip On Network, okay? The
Whip On Network. No, a couple of weeks ago, we had somebody on who was like, if there is any kind of silver lining from this pandemic, and Lord knows that the price was high, it is that people have been forced to stop and listen. There is no I'm too busy to look. There is no I've got other things to worry about. Because what are you worried about right now? You're going to be in quarantine. So,
right.
When all of this, because, when Black Lives Matter first came up a few years back, it was like, you know, there were people who came out for it, but there was so many blinders, right? So many
the
people
rally
came
of the
out.
thing felt so short-lived.
Yes.
Right.
And this time it's like people have their ears open, their eyes open, and you have to choose not to see. You have to choose. That is a choice.
You have to choose to be ignorant.
Choice. Yes, you have to choose to be ignorant. And people, you know, I feel like there's that's a bigger swell of people now, because people are like, oh, I cannot choose this. I cannot. And it's like, that's right, you can't.
Right. So it's a lot of, like you said, it's a real huge moment of reflection and also evolution. I think people are evolving. Those who are making that choice to really tap into something that, like you said, Hector, has been around for a long time. You know, and really paying attention and looking inward. Looking inward.
And not only that, but then also making the decisions to think about or step into what is going to make this change. How can I help this change? How can I make this change happen?
Amen.
And it takes, you know, it takes a lot of people to sway a country. And I feel like the winds of change are blowing, and we're hoping that we can turn that thing into like a whirlwind and take it up to the top.
That's the thing.
Totally.
I think it's, you know, for the people, by the people. I think that's been out of sight. You know what I mean? And now and
people are paying attention. The world is watching. Because even living here in Canada, people are watching and people are joining and in solidarity and are trying to even look at the racism and the issues that are happening here in this country as well, because we all come from a colonial history, right? So there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot to unwrap there.
A lot to.
And we got the time now.
Yeah.
We got the time to do that unwrapping.
So pick up a book that the government didn't give you.
Or that you didn't learn in school.
If you don't
that
like
somebody covered.
I know, if you don't like to read, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime have lined things up for you.
There.
And don't pretend like you don't have them. There. We know you do.
That's right. That's right.
If you are on the basic level and you got Netflix, go watch Latin History for Morons by John Leguizamo.
It's so good.
Let that be your intro, and then let it take you down that road.
Yes.
And as artists,
No, go on.
No, you go.
No, I was just saying, there's so many great documentaries on Netflix right now that are, you know, but that one, John Leguizamo, that piece is so well done. And it really opens up a lot of, it gives you a chock full of information that you can just continue to kind of like, you know, research. But other really great documentaries that have come out recently, like, you know, Disclosure, for instance, and then you've got I Am Not Your Negro, about, you know, James Baldwin, and you've got 13th, amazing, you know, all these really great documentaries that will, you know, kind of open up the conversation a little bit more and change the conversation, you know.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're our guest, please. I was gonna hear us talk.
we have all the time in the world to have these conversations. That's we're good. We'll figure out where we can cut out our own intro that we record with. It's like, hey guys, how are you today? We've got before you guys come in, we can cut that out.
I love post-production.
Right?
Yes, right.
Take care of it in post. And like talking about the documentaries, like that was gonna be my comment, that as artists, you know, it's unfortunate we don't have work right now, or the work is very limited, as you know, the film and TV industry is just about really to open back up. But what we can do is use these talents. So we keep, you know, trying to spread that message. It's, if you are a choreographer, link up with a filmmaker. If you're a musician and you're like, you know what, I think that there's movement to the song, link up with a choreographer. There's so much that we can still do to create an impact, you know. And I think that the connections that are being made due to this situation, that are these conditions, I think is a really powerful way for us to use our art and our voices. So I think that's a really positive and powerful.
Well, I think it's also, yes, And I think the idea of work, that is a very interesting concept to me, because I feel like there may not be work in the conventional way that we used to do it, but I feel like you can create your own work. Like you said, you can get like that. That's the idea. The work isn't this thing in the system that we feel like we have to be attached to. You can make your money however you want, but your work is still going to be your work. You know?
Yeah. So speaking of the arts,
nice. That was a good transition. We're getting really good at these.
How do you feel like the arts have served you during this time?
Saved my life.
It's see, then and that's the thing we keep hearing. It's a mixed bag for some people. People have found themselves delving more into their art form and like discovering new arts, but we've also found people who have been like, I've had to step away from the arts completely. So how have the arts been either a factor in your life, or have you had to step back during this time period?
Michelle?
I would say for me, I mean, I'm doing a lot of writing. I tend to do a lot of writing in between projects. So I've been doing that, and I'm kind of, resurrecting a few things that I kind of started, because I've been doing a lot of teaching as well in between other projects. But I would say the arts, I mean, I'm one of those people that I cannot live without listening to music, and I need that on my daily, that's just something I need, and that's healing for me. And I've also been tapping into watching again, some documentaries and shows. I've been also wanting to give a shout out to some shows that as Latinos we should definitely support, like Gentefied on Netflix is so good. It's such a great show, really well written. Vida on Stars, excellent show about the Latino experience. So, there are things that I haven't been able to, have time to watch. And now that we're in quarantine mode, I've been able to kind of like, see, get a feel as to what narratives are being explored, you know what I mean? And that feeds me, that feeds the work that I want to do as an educator, as a writer, and even doing art for means of social change, which is something that I very much am into. So that's where I
know Michelle and I share a mutual interest in how we are portrayed as people in the media, and what the thing perceives us as versus what we are versus what the masses get to see, and who gets to control what that narrative is.
I'm so excited that you're writing, because I always think to myself, I wish I was a better writer, because I would love to write the stories of my family. There are some real doozies.
You should.
I'm just a horrible writer. It's just real bad. And
well, you know what? You just gotta write. Just write.
Yep.
Just start writing.
Yep.
Just pick up the pen, pick up the keyboard, do what you got to do, and start
Don't
writing.
self-edit.
That's the problem. I'll read back. I feel like I trap myself, because I'll read back and go, this is crap.
Then you just edit it, and then if there's something that you don't have to fix that section, this is the filler for now. I'll fix that in a second. Let me shape. It's kind of like in my mind, it's like molding clay, because I've gotten into writing as well. I've got an idea for a play, an idea for a musical, and I'm releasing music with my band. Alyssa said, we just shot the music video, and
it's wonderful. So
my grandmother, thank you. And I actually wrote for Revolución Latina, which is a company I also want to shout out a little later. They have a blog, and they asked me to contribute to the blog. So I wrote for that, and that was my first kind of like opinion piece that kind of got to go out into the world. So that felt really good. Yeah. And my grandmother passed away about 2 months ago, and I was just in a state of like shock. Like this is not real. You know what I mean? And the world that we're living in is not real. How can this? I'm gonna wake up from this, and I'm gonna go to the nursing home. I'm gonna see her. We're gonna have a laugh. We should get up and do a little salsa with me. And reality set in that this just happened. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, "What do you want to do for the funeral?" And I was just like, you know what I mean? Like, do you want to say something? And I was like, I do, but I'm not a writer that way, and I don't think I can eloquently give a speech. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, and I love music, but I'm not religious in the way that like I would like, oh, I'm gonna sing this hymn.
Right.
So
sure.
I actually use a song from the show called Alabanza, and I called a couple friends who were able to record from their own homes the various parts of the ensemble and leads in the show, and then I mixed that down, and my family was able to listen to that when we put her into the ground.
Yeah.
So like that was, as hard as that was, it was like such a cathartic thing for me.
Yeah.
And then also like the show has given me so much and continues to give me so much. So like the arts, I don't understand how people can cut funding for arts when they give so much to people, and they basically have the power to sway minds. Like look at the people who have the most influence. There are people like Beyonce, who's an artist. She's not a politician.
Yeah.
You know, there are people like Lady Gaga, like Jay-Z. They're all artists.
Totally.
And when we look back in time, we look at policy and we look at all those things in history, but we also look at how the social demographic changed the policy, and that came from artists first. And we don't necessarily clock that in the history books. That ends up when I feel like we study bills first, and then we go backtrack to the art.
And not only that, it's like when you think about artists from way back, like even people like Nina Simone, who said that it's an artist's responsibility. Yeah, and she used to say it's the artist's responsibility to reflect on what is happening in the world today. You know, to reflect that their art needs to reflect what is happening in the world today, and she sure did. You know what I mean? She made that her mandate, you know, as an artist. And so and I always bring that up, you know, because some people will say things that, you know, particularly more conservatively minded people will say things like, well, you know, the arts aren't really that important because we've got all these other things to deal with and take care of, and, you know, science and technology and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you know, what do you turn to? What do you turn to on a daily to just kind of ease your mind, to heal, to decompress? You turn to the arts. You watch a movie, you watch a documentary, you listen to music. You know, it's around us in every aspect of our lives. You can't escape it.
And it's communal.
It's communal. It is very much communal. And theater is one of those art forms that it's truly about community. It's truly communal.
As is the show.
That is
so.
I was gonna say we're going to see. I love the idea of our art having to reflect what's going on in the world, because I mean we're going to get a little piece of that when the In the Heights movie comes out, because they've evolved the script to
look for me in the club scene.
Hey now, you heard it here first. No, I'm excited to see what they've done as far as like including the whole Dreamers idea, and like, you know, because that was when they were rewriting and filming or whatever. They were like, this is something that needs to be included in this. So that is beautiful that they're having that opportunity to evolve the script that way to reflect the struggle of the people that we're representing.
This makes me think of, I'll never really get the last, Lillian and I were part of essentially 4-city co-pro of Heights, and every theater was amazing. But our last theater was Portland Center Stage, and the artistic director, her name is Marissa Wolf. She is phenomenal. She is just a queen. And in our first meeting, our first rehearsal, you know, company meeting, at the end of her speech to us, she said, and I might misquoted a little bit, but she said that the role of the artist, or the job of the artist, is to make the revolution look irresistible, or make the revolution irresistible, something along those lines. And it was just, it immediately
just resonates,
hit us, because that's something we had already been talking about. Every time you see brown and black bodies on stage, that it should not have to be a form of protest, but it almost is right now, insane.
Yeah, it's a form of resistance.
And the problem is, it's too far and few between.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But hopefully that change is coming.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. We got it.
It's happening.
We got it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, speaking of Heights, because I brought up the movie, I would love to know, when did In the Heights come into your life? Okay. How has it affected your life? Have you done it multiple places? Tell me about it. How did In the Heights?
I want to hear Michelle's story. Michelle, you go first.
Oh, I started, my first experience with In the Heights was with the original company, 2007, at 37 Arts. And yes, and my friend and colleague, Olga Meredith, who was playing Abuela, she was called to go and do a film. She was going to be doing another project, so they needed someone to step in as Abuela for a couple of months. Yeah. And so I got called. And I was able to step into the company and play Abuela Claudia opposite Lynn, and which was great. It was a great experience. Got to work with Lynn. I had several Uznavis during that incarnation. It was Lynn, Sean Taylor Corbett, yes, Michael Valderrama, and my beautiful Javier Munoz. So all these,
I love Javi.
Yes, all these different Uznavis. During that period of time, and I also covered both Daniela and Camila, but I never went on for them. And then after that experience, I fell in love and moved to Canada. So it's like, my life really within that time frame, 2007 to 2009, I just, ended up moving to another country. But then it came full circle again, because during that 2007 experience, I met Luis Salgado. He was also in the company, in the original company. And then I ended up 10 years later doing In the Heights in Spanish, which is, the bilingual production, our first Spanish production, US production, which as Abuela Claudia, which was really profound for me, because that company, especially right on the heels of Trump being nominated as president, and we were in Washington, D.C., and we were around a Latino community, mostly immigrant community. All of it was just, it all came together. And to have on opening night Sotomayor in the audience, yes, to meet Héctor Flores, to meet all the wonderful people that I met during that experience, to be able to sing Paciencia y Fe in English and Spanish.
Ooh, very profound. To play like this up to Michelle every night.
Very profound and very moving, because having done it years ago, to the 10 years before, and then doing it 10 years later, with everything that has happened politically, social politically, it was a really, I would never trade it for the world. So that has been my journey within the Heights. I've been asked to play her again in other incarnations, but I was busy or working, teaching as well. So maybe someday again I'll play her again. You know what I mean? Yes. But since the last production I did was at Gala.
Yes. So hopefully Alyssa will direct it and I'll choreograph it, and then we can call in that favor and be like, Michelle, we got a nice little check.
I love it. That'd be awesome.
Hopefully it'll be a nice big check.
But it's been such a beautiful journey. It's been so wonderful to watch the show, to watch the many people that I love, the many people that I know go from one production to the next, to the next, to the next. Because even the last production that you both did, Jasmine Allers, we go way back. Like we did the Cape Man together, you know what I mean? Tony Chiroldes, people that I feel very close to, and I still consider, part of my familia. So that's been my journey.
The ability to create, to form this family from In the Heights is just incredible. Part of the reason why we wanted to expand this interview series to the country and to the different countries,
the world,
in the U.S., the world.
Yes,
we're taking over.
Growing. And speaking of familia, Héctor, what's the start of your journey, and where is it taking you?
Oh my goodness! I'm gonna take it back to yesteryear. In the year of I met you in a production of In the Heights that was, it was a non-equity production in Fort Collins, Colorado. And honey, that's one of them contracts that you will remember for a lifetime, because so many shenanigans happened. There was so many bad choices were made, but so many wonderful choices too.
Life, not show. Life choices. Not show
life choices. And mean, I guess literally the first time the show kind of came into my life was when I saw it at the Tony Awards. And I thought that it was the most amazing thing. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to be part of this. I have to figure it out. I have to get into the show before it closes. And mind you, I was still in college, just big dreams. I'm going to graduate and book Broadway. And then when I came back from break, my mom had surprised me and we went with my grandmother to see the show for Christmas.
Oh, my soul.
Yeah, it was so good. And then the first time that I actually booked the show, I was in Fort Collins with Alyssa and a couple of other friends that we're still all really tight today. And I oddly played Piragua and Manchu. Because we had a cast of 17. We had a few less bodies, so we had to make it work.
Tighten that up.
So the Piragüero was cutting the rug in the club.
Yes, he was.
That's awesome.
And then the second time I did it was in Jersey. Again, Alyssa was also part of that production. I was in the ensemble. And then the third time I did it was with Michelle. And each production was really magical. But I think something about doing it in Spanish and hearing those words in the native language of who these characters are just felt really powerful. And then it felt even more authentic because our Usnavi was from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
Our Sunny was Dominican. A large part of our cast were immigrants, were people who came to this country with a dream to do that. Our Vanessa was actually from Peru. And then, like my dance partner was from Peru. We had another girl who was amazing salsa dancer, and she's from Colombia. And we had Aaron, who's from Spain. Like, it really was what the text says it's supposed to be. It felt so good. It felt visceral, and
there were a lot of tears.
There were so many tears.
Yeah, a lot of stories being told, because Luis, as a director, that's what he does. He creating community, and we used to have a lot of conversations because it was raw, right? There were a lot of really raw feelings happening in the world and in the United States,
It was
with the Latino community.
Luis was our second guest, I believe. I think Luis was our second guest, and it was really wonderful hearing him speak about the episode 2. Hearing him speak about the production and just the journey, the connection. So then to have two members of that company, it's that crossover and listening to the perspectives from both sides. It's really beautiful.
I love it. That's so good.
Heart trying not to shed a tear.
I know. I
get
freaking emotional. I'm such a dang mess.
You have feelings. It's people who bottle up them feelings that's when problems start. So let them out.
So real. That is so real.
Live your truth.
No, I mean, I was thinking about it because I've gotten to do 2 productions. One of them is the 4-city co-pro, and then the first one that I did. And in the first one I played Carla, and I loved playing Carla. Like she's dream for me. But in the second one I got to play Danny, and Danny is basically like if my mom's story and my story were like the same, right? And so to me, Danny just sits in a place that is so
in your soul,
in my soul. She talks about like the parrandas, and like the second that I think about, because I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and when I think about like the Christmas parties my mom used to have, and like then they'd pull out this
El coquico corrió.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? And like towards the end of the night, they pull out the suitcase that has all the instruments in it, and we start getting the parranda ready, and then everybody heads to the first house to like, you know what I mean? Like it's just.
I remember that too. Yeah.
It was so. No other role ever in my life has ever spoken to me about myself and my family and my people.
Heritage.
My heritage, like Danny did. So just like listening to that, and like I would love to see it in Spanish. Just thinking about that made me cry. I was like, I'm fine. It's fine.
I'm sure it exists somewhere under lock and key. I gotta find it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Do some investigating.
Please do.
And now is the time to do it. I've been trying.
I'm gonna call up Doobie and be like, "Girl, what are you doing?"
I've been trying to get recordings of shows that I've done, and during this quarantine, I have gotten 4 archivals for 4 different productions. Because I've been
good for you.
Do you have this? Can I have it? Do you have
Yeah.
And so now is the time. Everybody's sitting around and feeling very generous.
Okay, girl, I'm about to knock some emails out when I get off the Zoom.
I'm like, call your dance captains. They have them.
Same. I'm like,
okay.
What don't I have? Like, that's a good idea. I'm gonna make a list after this.
That's a good idea, actually. That's true. To have that.
That's crazy. And then people always like, make a reel of what? They won't give me the footage.
I'm like, I have them all on an external. I bought an external hard drive specifically for that, just so that I can be like, look, I have all of these archives. Yes.
Credit.
You can do it. It can happen.
Yes.
So yeah.
In terms of, I feel like, I mean, there's not even a real, not that there's not a need to ask this question because we've kind of spoken about this already, but in terms of like the climate, the world, being connected by a show that creates such family and has such an impact with the statements, are there certain hopes, dreams, contributions that, given the present day circumstances, you would like to make to the arts, things that you look forward to seeing change wise, or actions in which you have felt inspired to take? I know it's a loaded question.
No. It's a good one, actually. It's funny when we were working in the Heights, and we were in the community, because Gala Hispanic Theater is one of the first, Spanish or Hispanic theaters in the United States that really came to fruition. And so it was nice to come back, because I had worked with them years ago in Washington when I was living in Maryland as a young student. And then because I have family in Maryland. So I was able to go back to Washington, D.C., work there. And I remember they did a lot of outreach work. And I've done a lot of work using theater as a means of outreach, working with marginalized communities. When I was living in New York, I worked with an organization called ENACT. We used to use theater as a means of conflict resolution. I went on to get my master's in fine arts in theater for social change. So I do have an initiative called the Youth Artivist Theater Project, which actually I've been able to work with First Nations youth here in Canada. I've been able to work with some immigrant youth here in Canada, LGBT youth, using the theater as a means of advocacy, anti-bullying tactics. So that's something that I would like to continue to really, that has been kind of something that I had to put on the back burner for a while, doing other projects and teaching. So I would like to bring that back and be able to kind of gain, get some, write some grants and start, building that up again. Because I believe that now, especially after all of this is over, which I'm hoping happens sooner than later, I would like to be able to go back into the studio, work with young people and have them tell their stories and have them explore their narratives and talk about the experiences that they had throughout this whole period.
I feel like there's going to be a renaissance after this, because there's so many feelings tied to this time.
Totally. So that's what I would like to be able to, and especially with young people, because they've a lot of young people have not been able to go to their high school graduations. A lot of young people are sitting and talking about what's happening. Talking about Black Lives Matter, talking about their own identities, exploring where they come from. Really want to tap into even queer youth who are trying to a lot of queer youth who don't feel safe right now, or probably living in a home or quarantining in a home that they don't feel safe. There are a lot of narratives that I think can be explored this way. So that's kind of like where I'm leaning. That's kind of what I'm thinking about right now.
I love that. Teaching is the Lord's work. Okay.
It is. But the thing is, I feel like we all teach every day. I feel like if people chose instead to take things to an angry place, which, I mean, you're valid. Everybody has feelings. Don't.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you could take that moment and instead of holding on to the negativity and turn that into a teaching moment, then more love is getting put into the world,
Yeah.
I think we all have the power to turn those things. Art-wise, my group and we've written a song that was spearheaded by our member Stephen Charles called Time for Us, and we recently released an EP. And we actually we were going to release, we had plans to release something totally different, like not totally different, but package-wise different. And then because this happened and we couldn't get into the studio, but we felt like the weight of the world just felt so heavy, we're like, we need to release this with this specific song because this needs to be out in the world. And we kind of wrote it not too long before all of this happened, but there were so many injustices in the world that we've seen. And now that we're all sitting at home, people have nothing to do but record and watch. Now that everybody's seeing it. So it's kind of like this, take a look at all of these things that are happening around us. And even though we're singing about this one person, it is so many people at the same time. And then just ask you to like take a look inside yourself. Yeah. It's called Time for Us. You can listen to it wherever music is streamed.
I have, and it's good.
Thank you.
We'll add a link as well.
I know.
And
I haven't listened to it, but I will listen to it directly
take
after
a listen, yes. And then if you're ready to groove, put on Crash. That's my jam. But also I've been working with New York Theater Barn. My partner is the artistic director at New York Theater Barn, and their mission is to tell untold stories. And since their inception, they have been telling the stories of Black, Brown, Asian, transgendered, queer. They've been telling as whoever's story, if they want to come, if they got a new musical, they can come to Theater Barn, and that place, hopefully we can find a home for it. And within the quarantine, the company has switched narratives because we have to with everything that's going on, and gone into a digital-based way where they're doing episodes almost every week where they showcase 2 new musicals. And it's about an hour-long program. If you have time to watch them, they're on YouTube, and you can just check them out if you're into the mood to hear some new show tunes. And they're from all different types of people. Some of them have been like really profound musicals, and I was like, okay, well, I need to go buy that sheet music for my book, or I can't wait to see that show, or I just like dig into the writers a lot more. And I think it's a really great platform for people to get their stories heard, and for the shows to hopefully gain more traction and more life, because it's so hard to make a musical happen. To make the road that it takes for a show to get to Broadway is long and treacherous.
Long. Listen, it's got some pits. It's got some
it does.
You know, where you go through the hallway and they've got the little shooty dart thing.
It's booby trap.
It's booby trap. It's got all sorts of stuff. That is so real.
And and New York Theater Barn gives a lot of writers that opportunity to do that, and they do. They're very, I hate saying equal opportunity because it feels so politically correct, but they don't. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. If the story and the music is good, let's go. Let's find a home for it, you know. And I really love that. But I'm also I was talking to my partner about this, and we're talking about like the naming of kids, because there was this like study that went out that said that if you had named your kids an ethnic name or an ethnic sounding name, whatever the hell that is, that they would do.
Did you hear that eye roll? I rolled so hard. I heard it.
Whatever that is, that they'll have a harder time making money throughout life, like getting those jobs or those interviews and this, that, and the third. And someone had posed that question to me: would you name your kid something that sounded more white so they could get ahead? And I was like, what? Like, that is the thing? No. I'm not going to play this game. So like that sparked a conversation, and that's a play that my partner and I are working on writing right now. It's about a couple who, they meet and they kind of fall in love, and fools rush in, and then something happens and they're like, wait a minute, you're not the person that I thought you were. And like, what is this reality that we're in? Because you think you know somebody, and then all of a sudden, like when push comes to shove, or we find ourselves in a tumultuous time and those colors really show, you're kind of, it's like the rug is a little swept from under you.
Yeah. It's funny because I married a tall blanquito. He's adorable. We met when we were 12 years old, when my family moved to Utah. So we were best friends growing up, and we ended up getting married. And when we got married, I told him, I was like, I am not going to take your last name. Is that going to be a problem for you? And he was like, oh, I don't think so. Well, you know,
is that a problem for you?
Is that a problem for you? There would have been a discussion, you know, about like the fact that needed to not be a problem.
Yeah.
But he was like,
Right.
no, I don't think I have a problem with that. I'm like, great, because my name is Lillian, and you put Lillian Strong together, and I sound like I'm a white lady from from England or something. And so I was like, I want to keep Castillo. I want them to know, even without looking at my picture, who I am and where I'm from. So it breaks my heart when I think about, and you know, it's such a, I can totally see why people would do that, where they'd be like, oh, you know, let's give our kids
assimilate,
and that was the name of the game.
Sure.
That was the name of the game.
Yeah.
You know, when my family moved to Utah in the 90s, that was the name of the game. Listen, you see this beautiful curl mane here?
Totally.
Like within 2 months of moving to Utah, I had it chemically straightened. You know what I mean? Because some person came up to me and was like, are you wearing like an Afro wig? You know, and I was 12.
What is it with people's thing and hair?
I know.
Why
that
do
happened to
people
me
ask me
too
to
when I was
pull
a
my
kid.
hair?
And I'm
Don't
just
do
like,
that.
and
Don't
you know,
ask
they're
me to
wanting
touch
to
my hair.
touch it, and they're wanting to, and it's like, and I thought, okay, I need to make myself look like these people more, because this is a thing right now. So you know, that is such I understand the impetus to do that, to try and assimilate your kids. And I think, you know, I'm excited that we're getting to a point where we can look at those people who are about to have children. You know, my husband and I are gonna do IVF hopefully as soon as the fertility clinics open up, and be like, you don't have to do that. You can name your kid whatever the hell you want. You know what I mean? You know, and you know, if you like the name Kelly, by all means, name your child
Come
Kelly.
on, I love Clarkson.
Do what you want to do. But I, you know, to be able to say, I don't have to do this. Hopefully the change is so profound, and it's happening, and it's people are listening. So we don't have to do that shit anymore. We don't have to deny who we are anymore to avoid being hurt or avoid not getting a job or avoid, you know. So
it's nice to feel like you're not living on eggshells.
Yes.
In the world.
Yes.
Right.
To not only not be living on eggshells, but to like fully be like, this is my cowbell. Look who I am. It's not
I need
even
more
just like,
cowbell.
I am who I am. It's not just like, I'm living. It's like, I want you to see me. I want you to see me. I want you to hear me. I want you to see my story. It's
right. Visibility is important. Representation, visibility. Absolutely. Because when we think about our ancestors, and we think about even our elders, or even going back as our parents, our grandparents, their struggles, their experiences with trying to fit in, you know, like my dad, you know, he came to the Bronx and he didn't feel like he fit in anywhere. You know what I mean? It was sort of like, and he had a very thick accent. He didn't speak English very well. So it's just so many different, you know, issues that kind of, and that came into our world too, you know what I mean? Because then we started to believe that there was something wrong with us, or something wrong with our need to having to straighten that hair, our need to having to, you know, because colorism is an issue. That is something that exists even in our Latinx communities, you know. So.
That's even a conversation I had maybe 2 years ago with my partner, and you know, talking about kids, and the question arose of, you know, or the you know, comment about like, if we had kids, would you want them to come out looking more like me or more like you, you know? And I run the gamut of color. I feel like winter, I am what I consider fair. I feel like Hector's been like, girl, you're not as fair as you think. But then
she's like, we're the same. And I'm like, ish. I wish I had a little more melanin.
I know, right? She's got all that beautiful melanin.
Beautiful.
You know, I like, that's the thing. I love my skin. I love like that in like in the winter. Yeah, I get a little, for me, pasty, but then in the summer I'm like, give me the sun, and like I get so many shades darker than this, you know. And like that's something I'm proud of my color. I'm proud of the way I look, you know. This is part of my heritage as well, like the melting pot, you know, that lives within me. And I hope that my children get to celebrate themselves and their body and their look and their hair, you know, and their curves in that way. And it's, you know, it's important. It's important to have those conversations because we take pride in different things, and something that I take pride in may be a point of shame for somebody else, you know. And I was definitely raised in a family that was like, no, we are not ashamed of that. We are proud of that. And I wish and hope for more people to have that experience, you know, as we, and I know Lillian, when you have that baby, those babies, I know she'd multiple on her. They're going to have that, you know? Are there, I know we mentioned New York Theater Barn, and we've mentioned a couple of other organizations. Are there organizations that you would like to highlight to have viewers really get to educate themselves more, support if they can, donate? I know a few were mentioned, and we'll go back to those and make sure that we include those links as well.
Well, I included the ACLU because I believe that we need to have a lot of, you know, protections in the United States right now. The ACLU does a lot of really great work for our marginalized communities. Black Lives Matters, what's happening right now, the movements that are happening. The Ali Forney Center is a center for queer youth that really need more donations in order to keep afloat. And they do wonderful work for homeless youth, queer youth. The Marsha P. Johnson Institute, RAICES, a great institute in Texas, working for immigrant communities, Latino communities who are undocumented, to try to kind of keep them safe. And I also, you know, want to shout out to the Me Too movement. I believe that that organization led by Tarana Burke, I have a lot of respect for her and the work that she's doing for women with regards to sexual violence and protection of women. So those are some of the organizations that I kind of listed. So.
That's great. And thank you for sending the list. I was like, oh, great. The links are right here. Perfect.
So worldly. I was like, I'm going to do things in the arts.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. I'm glad.
I'm like, oh my goodness, my scope should have been a bit bigger. But
it's okay. She's got you covered.
Yes, thanks. Teamwork makes the dream work. Thanks, Michelle.
Right.
I've got two that I really want to shout out. And like I said, the first one is Revolución Latina.
Yes.
And I did, it's Luis Salgado, you had on earlier. It's co-founded by him and a bunch of other Broadway heavyweights like Gabriel Garcia and other names that I'm not going to run into right now. But they do a bunch of camps that I did called the Beyond Workshop series, where they bring up the Capitol to get a studio, and Luis basically calls in a bunch of friends that he knows from being a professional on Broadway, a veteran, and they basically teach class to professionals for 2 weeks straight, culminating in a kind of showcase performance. They also do it a lot for kids, and they bring people from outside of the country who may not have the big theater opportunities in their countries like we do here in New York. So the year that I did it, back in London, we had people from Colombia and then another group from Peru. And within our own group from the States, we had people from Japan, we had people who were Black, we had people who were Latino, we had people who were white. It was a big, beautiful cultural melting pot. And I think the work that they're doing is making a difference to the arts is phenomenal. The other company, New York Theater Barn, is basically incubating a bunch of new musicals by a bunch of different artists from all walks of life, which is really beautiful to see because variety is the spice of life. And to add to that, they're also, they accept donations every week, and they're giving half of their donations every week to a Black Lives Matter movement. The past 2 weeks, I believe, was for Black female writers. There's an organization, I will put the link, or give you the link.
Yes, give it to us. Yes.
And that was part of what they were donating to. So they are contributing to the movement. They are still telling stories like they always have been. They've always been part of the movement.
Awesome. So you heard it. All those links will be underneath here. Or if you're watching this on Instagram, they'll probably be on either side of the video. You too, Michelle, Hector, thank you so much for coming on Café Con Leche.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It has been such a pleasure. I love it. And thank you for joining us today. We hope that you always have your café exactly the way you like it. Bye. See you soon.
Dulce.
Bye.